When I was in medical school, what one of the things we learned was that most methamphetamine is cooked in like basement labs using dirty solvents, full of adulterants, full of solvents, full of other toxins that, accumulate in people's brain and can cause mental disorders. Well, I think recently the purity has increased markedly.
Several months ago, I spoke with Dr. Andrew Sheep, who was on the staff of the emergency room in Sunrise Medical in downtown Las Vegas, about the effects of methamphetamine that he was seeing among his patients. I recently posted a thing on my newsletter about levels of purity of methamphetamine, which are stratospheric. It's like the DEA for many years now has shown that something like of all samples that they test have 95% methamphetamine in it, which is more than methamphetamine per sample than we've ever seen. And this has been going on for maybe a dozen years or maybe more. So I wanted to talk with Andrew again on the Dreamland podcast, just to get another perspective. Always important to talk with ER docs, I've found, when you're trying to understand the effects of drugs on the street. So here's my conversation with Dr. Andrew Sheep.
I think most of the speculation points to industrial scale kind of cartel manufacturing, and they have made the methamphetamine very cheap and very pure. It used to be thought that like if it was higher purity methamphetamine, then maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But methamphetamine basically attacks the dopaminergic reward system probably more intensely than any other drug known to man. And what that does is when you come down off meth, you immediately want more of it. And then there are some psychiatric kind of comorbidities that come with that. You get very paranoid. You kind of you lose the salience of a situation, if that makes sense, and it makes you more reluctant to seek medical care for several reasons. One is that methamphetamine users, by and large, have comorbid mental illness. A lot of times, are homeless. They have this underlying paranoia. Methamphetamine by itself causes paranoia, and they may think that the healthcare provider who is truly trying to help them, or the social worker who is trying to get them into some of these various methamphetamine recovery programs, are just out to get them.
Right.
So it's a huge spiral problem we have.
It sounds to me what you're describing is symptoms very similar to schizophrenia, is
Yes,
what it
sir.
produces.
It's very, very similar to schizophrenia. Absolutely.
And I'm wondering how that makes your job more difficult, how it affects your job in general.
Right. Well, the ways in which it is similar to schizophrenia is a couple different ways. One is there are more a higher frequency of hallucinations,
Yeah.
and the hallucinations become more intense. So, that's one reason why these people are having trouble distinguishing reality from what's going on in their own brain. And then there's also this feeling of paranoia, like, hey, Dr. Sheep is not actually trying to help me. He's just out there to get me. And you will talk to the repeat meth offenders all the time. They'll always tell you there are people out to get me, the police are out to get me, the government is out to get me. Just very delusional with lots of hallucinations, and it makes it extremely difficult to treat these people.
Do you also see what I see on the street frequently is among the many behaviors, and there are many that are bizarre and very threatening, guys walking around half naked with machetes and stuff, stuff like this, and or taking a baseball bat to a sign for some reason. But the other is a hoarding on the street, lots of stuff that frankly looks like, to you and me, it looks like junk. Lots of dismantled bicycles, all this kind of stuff. And I know that you're in the ER, so you may not, but I was just wondering if you thought, what your thoughts were about any connection between methamphetamine and those kinds of very strange, very public behaviors, because frequently you'll see mounds of the stuff, big piles of bicycle parts and that kind of stuff.
here. Another thing that meth really does to hijack people's brain is to disrupt their normal sleep architecture. You know, the more and more sleep studies come out, the more valuable it seems that sleep really is for our brain, and for repairing damaged parts of our brain. And
Yeah.
these people really do not have normal sleep architecture and are very, very sleep deprived, which is contributing to the hallucinations, the delusions, and the psychosis. So, a couple reasons for the hoarding, because we see these patients all the time and they bring in these huge bags of what to us looks like trash. Well, one of the reasons is they may trade some of that stuff for cash. You know, a hit of methamphetamine, Sam, is only like $5. So you
Yeah.
may not need to trade that much to get a hit of methamphetamine. And then the other thing is, again, these people are having a lot of trouble distinguishing reality from hallucinations. And sometimes those things that are next to them are really their only like tethers to reality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a strange idea. It seems also to me that a lot of the meth promotes methamphetamine promotes the monkeying with mechanical object, the thing, TVs, computers, whatever it is, trying to fix it. Halfway through, you forget you're actually doing that or whatever. You know, it's a very sad drug in this way. It seems to me it's just like promotes all these very strange behaviors on the street. I'm wondering if you have found that in the ER, in the years since methamphetamine has clearly been the main problem on the street in Las Vegas, that you have also felt that it's become less safe, that there is a danger from people sometimes screaming and yelling and flailing and wanting to attack whoever is trying to subdue them or help them, in the case maybe as the case may be.
Absolutely. You know, I've been attacked many times since
Wow.
I've been an ER doctor. I've had many colleagues attacked. You get punched, spit at, kicked. Unfortunately, that is part of the job when you're working in an ER and when you're dealing with occasionally psychotic patients. Not only that, just having someone walking down the street dragging a baseball bat, yelling at people, even if they don't hit anyone, I mean, you're contributing to just a worse society overall. I'm sure you feel the same. You can't walk down the street to the grocery store when there's someone dealing with their inner demons, bashing a stop sign with a baseball
I
bat.
talked
So
with a friend of mine, right, and she was saying my daughter hasn't paid for methamphetamine in months, and that it's dirt cheap. But then on the street, you pay other ways, obviously.
yeah, yeah.
It's just and how you get people out of that when the meth is so unrelenting and so pure, as I wrote about, to me is like it's a huge thing. The purity numbers to me are just reflect this whole problem in
Yeah.
miniature. You
And
know.
I think the high purity makes it even that much more addictive.
You've been in Las Vegas about 7 years, if I remember correctly.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering if you have, in that time, seen the levels of mental illness rise significantly. As I know you're getting a concentrated dose of it in an ER, you would be, but what are your thoughts about how it's risen or not?
It's hard to say it's risen, Sam, because from the very moment I started working here from my very first shift, it was incredibly apparent. You know,
Oh,
it seems like every other patient that comes in is homeless, is destitute, is addicted to meth, is addicted to fentanyl, is an alcoholic. So whether or not the problem has increased or not, I don't think the problem has gotten any better
okay.
in the time I've been here. And, especially the amount of just completely hopeless people who, to me, it seems like their brain will never recover. And some some people call them meth zombies. I try not to say that because, there are reasons people are homeless, there are reasons people have mental illness.
No.
Um, but there are a lot of these patients that just, it doesn't seem like there's a way for them to get any better.
Right. Yes. And that's also kind of connected up, I think, with the what I was writing about, what I sent you about the purity, the immense purity of this drug. It seems like as long as you have so much of it out there, that the purity remains 95% or more, which is what that reflects. It just reflects an enormous, unrelenting supply, constant. It would seem to me difficult to get people away from that long enough so that they could be treated. It's you need to take them away from the drug. I know that they're experimenting with medical approaches as they have for opioid treatment, opioid addiction treatment. But my impression is it's not really shown that, well, so far we don't have one that's in widespread use.
So far,
And
we don't. One of the fortunate things that I just recently read about, and maybe you did too, they're developing a vaccine for fentanyl.
yeah,
Basically, a vaccine that targets when you give fentanyl, it'll attach itself to the fentanyl and basically render it inert. Hopefully we can come up with a vaccine for methamphetamine because at least in this area in Las Vegas, I mean, we have a lot of fentanyl use. The nice thing about fentanyl use is we can actually treat it in the ER.
yeah,
And we have decent resources. As I'm sure you know, buprenorphine.
right,
Um, buprenorphine is really a godsend when it comes to opiate use disorder.
yeah,
And we can get those people back on the road to recovery. We don't have the equivalent buprenorphine for methamphetamine.
right,
Um, and I think, from the top down in politics, there's this, people are saying fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction. And while that may be true, a lot of us feel that methamphetamine is actually a much larger problem than opiates for the reasons that you already elucidated. The long-term psychosis, the long-term brain damage.
yeah. Andrew Sheep, thanks so much for taking some time once again to chat. It's always an education, so appreciate you doing that.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Nice to see you again, Sam. And congratulations on your new book, The Perfect Tuba. I don't know what that has to do with methamphetamine or fentanyl, but I'm looking forward to reading it.
It has nothing except for the author needed a break from writing about opioid addiction and fentanyl addiction and meth addiction, and so tuba players and band directors became became the way I did that. So yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. We all need a break from it sometimes.
thanks very much to Andrew Sheep for taking some time to explain what he's seeing on the streets of Las Vegas, Nevada when it comes to methamphetamine. Please subscribe to my newsletter at samquinones.substack.com, to my YouTube channel at True Tales Video, and I'll see you on the next one.